Good morning, friends. I will start about the histology of ear. Now, human ear consists of three parts. In the given diagram, you can visualize the external ear, then the middle ear, and the internal ear. The external ear that is totally visible on the side of the skull. You can see the different parts of the external ear, which is the auricle, also called the pinna, external acoustic meatus. Then the middle ear, you can see in the given diagram, that is separating from the external ear by the tympanic membrane. And this tympanic membrane is located obliquely placed, will separate the external ear externally from the middle ear internally. Now, middle ear consisting of three ear ossicles, collectively called the ear ossicles. The striking feature of the ear ossicles, gross anatomically, these are the ear ossicles developed from the womb of the mother after birth without any changes till the death of the body. So ear ossicles, no change after birth even. Ear ossicles are stapes, incus and malleus. These are in the middle ear. Now middle ear cavity separating from the inner ear. Inner ear consists part the anteriorly called the spiral snail-like area is called the cochlea. Then the posteriorly called the semicircular canals, both of these two. And central part is dilated part called the vestibule. Now figure showing here again the external ear, middle ear separating from the external ear by the tympanic plate, tympanic membrane, and inner ear. Now again figure showing the different parts of the human ear. This is the auricle, external acoustic meatus with external auditory canal, then the tympanic membrane, the middle ear with the malleus, incus and stapes. Now these are the parts of the middle ear cavity. Now inner ear, we can visualize in the given diagram the snail-like structure called the cochlea, centrally dilated part called the vestibule, and posteriorly the three semicircular canal. Now we will go in detail about each part of the ear. Now first, the external ear. External ear consists of the parts first auricle, also called the pinna, and second external acoustic meatus. This is the external ear that we have discussed previously, separated from the middle ear cavity by the tympanic membrane. Now here the first part of the external ear. Now external ear, exposed part, auricle is the exposed part of the external ear outside the skull. Functional aspect of the auricle which directs the sound waves to be focused towards the external auditory meatus. The diagram showing the auricle and the external auditory canal. These are the parts of the external ear. Now auricle. Now under the hematoxylin-eosin staining procedure, the histologically auricle is made up of yellow elastic cartilage. Now this figure is showing here. This is the auricle, also called pinna, having the bilateral epithelium. That is, the epithelium is covered by the skin. So epithelium of the skin, that is the stratified squamous keratinized epithelium, and that is called the epidermis of the skin. Beneath that is the dermis, then hypodermis. Again the second bilateral sides, stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. So this is bilaterally having the skin epithelium, and central core is composed of the elastic cartilage. Now this elastic cartilage, which is enveloped in the perichondrium, and that perichondrium which is fibrovascular membrane, and its outer layer is fibrous and inner layer is chondrogenic. Now cells are called here the chondroblast. The one cell undergo the mitotic cell division, give rise to the more number of the daughter cells, then moving toward the central part. And this is the central core of the auricle, composed of the elastic cartilage. Now this is about the auricle. Now here the lobule of the auricle, which is devoid of the cartilage but has rich capillary bed and which is a convenient site for taking the blood for the examination in the human wearing the ladies the earrings. Now the dermis below the epithelium, which contains the hair follicles and the sebaceous gland. But hair follicles in the auricle, which are more prominent near the entrance of the external acoustic meatus. Now here figure showing the histologically area give rise to the slide. Now again you can see in the given diagram, the one side epithelium is the skin epithelium, stratified squamous keratinized. Then the dermis consisting of the hair and the sebaceous gland. Then the hypodermis and the central core is composed of the elastic cartilage. Now external acoustic meatus. So the parts including in the external ear, one is the auricle that we have discussed. Second, external acoustic meatus. The external acoustic meatus consisting of the two parts, outer part and inner part. Outer part is the cartilaginous, is made up of the yellow elastic cartilage. Now you have discussed in the gross anatomy, the norma basalis, the sulcus tubi is there. So the cartilaginous part of the external acoustic here you can see. The auditory tube having the two parts, even though the cartilaginous part is located in the sulcus tubi. Now we are discussing here the external acoustic meatus. So outer part is cartilaginous and inner part is bony. Bony part are lined by again stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. Many short hairs are present in outer one-third of the meatus with the sebaceous glands. Now, deep to the sebaceous glands in subcutaneous tissues are the glands known as the ceruminous gland. These ceruminous glands are called the wax glands, which are modified sweat glands. Now, here you can see the given diagram from outer to inner side. This is the epithelium and this is the epithelium stratified squamous epithelium. Then the deep to this, that is the ceruminous glands, which are modified sweat glands and which are called the wax glands. Will produce the wax and timely according to the human life, we have to evacuate the wax during the life. Now, second, tympanic membrane. Tympanic membrane, you can visualize in the given diagram. This tympanic membrane will separate the external ear from the middle ear. Now, histologically, tympanic membrane, which is made up of collagen fibers, which are lined on either side by the epithelium. You can see in the given diagram, this is the tympanic membrane having the bilateral epithelium. The outer surface, that is the made up of skin, and the epithelium is stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. The inner side, inner surface of the tympanic membrane, that is made up of the another epithelium, that is called the simple cuboidal epithelium. So, tympanic membrane is the feature having again the bilateral epithelium, respectively outer side stratified squamous keratinized and inner side simple cuboidal epithelium. Now the collagen fibers are also in the central core of the tympanic membrane into the two layers. Again, the outer fibers and inner fibers. Outer fibers are in the given diagram arranged radially from the center. So outer fibers are radially arranged in the figure showing the outer fibers of the collagen fibers. Now the inner which are arranged circularly. Now what is pars flaccida? So pars flaccida, in which the area of the tympanic membrane in which the collagen fibers are absent in the upper part known as the pars flaccida. So the diagram showing here the green colored area indicating pars flaccida, in which the collagen fibers are absent in the upper part. You can visualize the again diagram here, the pars flaccida, where the collagen fibers are absent. That is the important viva question. Now here diagram showing the structure of the tympanic membrane. Now tympanic membrane, as we have discussed, the external ear from the middle ear. Now middle ear consists of 3 ear ossicles we have discussed. Now what are the functions of the middle ear? So it transmits the sound waves from the external ear to the internal ear through the chain of ear ossicles and thus transforms the airborne vibration from the tympanic membrane to the liquid borne vibration in the internal ear. Now second important function of the middle ear, the intensity of the sound waves is increased 10 times. How many times? 10 times by the ear ossicles, because the ear ossicles are the important content of the middle ear cavity. It may be noted that the frequency of the sound does not change. Now the middle ear. Now histologically, the microscopic structure of the middle ear cavity, here we will visualize. First, the middle ear is also known as the tympanic cavity or the tympanum. Within the cavity, we have discussed 3 ear ossicles called the malleus, incus and stapes. They form a chain which is attached on one side to the tympanic plate. We can see here in the given diagram. So, from the chain here is attached on one side of the tympanic membrane and on other side the part of the internal ear. Now, histologically lined by the simple non-ciliated cuboidal epithelium, which is changed to ciliated or stratified squamous epithelium in the infection. If the patient is suffering from the infection in the ear cavity, the epithelium in the middle ear, which is simple non-ciliated cuboidal epithelium, which has been changed to ciliated or stratified squamous epithelium. Now middle ear embryologically is a structure of the endodermal origin, that is of the first pharyngeal pouch. Only the lining epithelium is sandwiched between the two structures of the ectodermal origin, that is the external ear and internal ear. So this is again the important question embryologically. Middle ear is developed from the endodermal origin, while internal ear and internal ear, both of these two are ectodermal origin. The only lining epithelium is sandwiched between the two structures. That is the important characteristic of the middle ear cavity. Now we can see here in the given diagram the auditory tube, which is also called the Eustachian tube and is connected with the nasopharynx in the wall of the pharynx, and medial part of the tube is cartilaginous and lateral part is bony. That I told you previously, that the norma basalis, including the area called the sulcus tubi, where the cartilaginous part of the auditory tube is located. Now, so the middle ear cavity connected with the pharynx by the auditory tube. Medial part is of the tube is the cartilaginous and lateral part of the tube is the bony part. Now look at here, the nasopharynx is a part of the pharynx. So part of the pharynx from above downwards, nasopharynx, oropharynx and the laryngopharynx. So here the laryngopharynx that we have discussed in the previous class, the respiratory mucosa is made up of the pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. Now we can see here the change. The auditory tube is the inner end is open in the nasopharynx. So tube is lined by the epithelium is changed. The pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium near the pharynx. So this is again the important feature of the middle ear cavity. tube is lined by pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium near the pharynx, which contains the serous and the mucous glands. Now this is the sagittal section of the head and neck. You can see in the wall the inner opening of the auditory tube. This is the middle ear cavity. So it's a connecting between the pharynx and the middle ear. Now inner ear. Now inner ear cavity consisting of a series of the membranous tubes arranged in the various planes, and two sacs with which the tubes which communicate, consisting of the bony labyrinth which enclosing the membranous labyrinth. First we will visualize in the given diagram. So this is the basic structure of the internal ear as seen in the section through a semicircular canal. Now we can see here the bony labyrinth, that is the dense bone forming the wall of the bony labyrinth, that is the normal bone, and here enclosing here the membranous labyrinth. Now this membranous labyrinth contains the endolymph, is the inner ear fluid. Now the bony labyrinth again sac which consisting of the perilymph. Now the inner ear fluids are perilymph and endolymph, which are accordingly located respectively in the membranous labyrinth and the bony labyrinth. Now that so consisting of the inner ear series of the membranous tubes arranged in the various planes and two sacs with which the tubes communicate. Now inner ear cavity consisting of the features called the bony labyrinth, which enclosing that we have seen in the given diagram. So consists of the bony labyrinth enclosing the membranous labyrinth. This closed membranous labyrinth that is filled with the inner ear fluid is called the endolymph. Now it is separated from the bony labyrinth by the another fluid again called the inner ear fluid, that is called the perilymph. Now diagram. At appropriate sites, the neuroepithelial structures with special type of nerve endings are arranged in the lining of this system. So membranous labyrinth is enclosed loosely. It is enclosed loosely in the bony labyrinth with which contains the perilymph. Now the bony labyrinth consists of the three parts. Now before going in detail of the bony labyrinth, which consists of three parts, we will discuss what are the functions of the inner ear cavity. Now inner ear cavity consisting of main function, that is the specialized end organs in the membranous labyrinth. The internal ear is a highly specialized end organ that performs the dual functions. Which performs the dual functions? Number one, function of the hearing, and number two, of providing the information about the position and the movements of the head. So how many functions are performed by the inner ear cavity? Number one, function of the hearing and providing the information about the position and the movements of the head. The impulses in the question are converted into nerve impulses by a number of the structures that act as a transducers. Now inner ear cavity, the main containing the spiral organ of Corti. So this spiral we will discuss it later on. The spiral organ of Corti, that is important. Short note will be asked in the exam. These are the spiral organ of Corti. So we have discussed the two functions performed by the inner cavity. Number one, the hearing. So the spiral organ of the Corti for the hearing, and maculae, we'll discuss it later on, singular macula, present in the utricle and the saccule for changes in the position of the head. So according to the dual function of the inner ear cavity, hearing performed by the spiral organ of Corti, and position of the head is performed by the utricle and saccule. So utricle and saccule, which are the otolith organs, we'll discuss it later on. Now the important again third function of the inner ear cavity, That is, the information about the angular movements of the head is provided by end organs called the ampullary crest. We will discuss it later on along with the semicircular canals or crista called the crista ampullae. One such crest is seen present in each semicircular duct. One end of each semicircular duct is dilated to form ampulla and the end organ lies within the dilatation. So I will show you the diagram where the ampulla of that is visualized in the given diagram. So this is the ampullary end of the semicircular canal which is dilated. So the semicircular canal are three along with the bony labyrinth. We'll discuss it later on. So the end of the bony labyrinth consisting of the semicircular canal, end of the semicircular canal which is dilated part is called the ampulla. So this is the figure showing the dilated part called the ampulla. Now, so these are the important functions of the inner ear cavity. Now, bony labyrinth. So here inner ear cavity consists of mainly the two sacs. One is the membranous and one is the bony labyrinth. So we have discussed the bony labyrinth as the three parts. The bony labyrinth, these are the three parts showing with the centrally dilated part is called, the middle part is called the vestibule. The bony labyrinth is seen from the lateral side. The central dilated part is called the vestibule, and anterior to the vestibule, that is called the cochlea. We can see the diagram, the coiled on itself, 2 to 3 tons on itself, which is a spiral snail-like appearance. This is called the cochlea. Important structure in the inner ear cavity we'll discuss. Now this is the central part called vestibule. Behind the vestibule, posteriorly, the three semicircular canals. Now just focus your eyes on the diagram. We will moving one by one in each part of the bony labyrinth which is seen from the lateral side. The central part, again I will repeat, central part is called vestibule. Anterior to vestibule is called the cochlea. Posterior to the vestibule is called the semicircular canal. So this is the diagram showing. So discussing the vestibule in the middle part, that is the most expanded portion of the inner ear cavity. Now this vestibule is a continuous anteriorly, we have seen in the previous diagram, continuous anteriorly with the cochlea and posteriorly with the three semicircular canal. Cochlea anteriorly is a snail-like extension of the vestibule anteriorly that I told you, 2 to 3 tons, coiled on itself, the spiral snail-like appearance. And posterior to the vestibule is the semicircular canal, 3 separate tubes disposed in 3 different planes, open on the posterior wall of the vestibule posteriorly. Now here we can see the cochlea, vestibule and the semicircular canal. See, the posteriorly semicircular canal open in the part called utricle, and anteriorly, this is posteriorly, anteriorly called the saccule connecting with the cochlea. So utricle and saccule, both of these two are the otolith organs which lie in the vestibule. Vestibule. Now, how many parts? 3 parts of the bony labyrinth. Number 1, vestibule in the middle central part, which contains the 2 distinct membranous sacs. Utricle is the posteriorly and saccule is the anteriorly. So here you can see utricle. Posteriorly we have discussed the central vestibule portion, posteriorly with the semicircular, and anterior to it is the cochlea. So utricle posteriorly and saccule anteriorly. Right? Now utricle, so while semicircular canals open in the utricle, semicircular canals open in the utricle. Now utricle is connected with the saccule, both of these two are connected with these two by the utrico-saccular duct. So both of these two are connected with the utricular duct. Now what is macula? Utricle and saccule are lined by flat mesothelium resting on the connective tissue membrane. Both of them contain specialized sensory ending known as the macula. So macula lie in the otolith organ. Otolith, the synonym of the otolith, that is the otoconia or the statoconia. So otolith organs containing the utricle and the saccule. What is the main function of the macula? That macula gives the information about the position of the head and are organs of the static balance, which are the organs of the static balance. The macula, second important function of the macula of the saccule may be concerned with the reception of the low frequency of the sound. That is another important function for the macula. So macula lie in the otolith organ. Now we'll moving toward the figure. This is the saccule anteriorly and posteriorly macula, right? So macula of the utricle, now green color indicating that the macula in the utricle is situated in the floor of the horizontal plane. This is the utricle in the horizontal plane, is situated in the floor of the horizontal plane in the dilated superior portion of the utricle, while macula of the saccule, it is situated in the medial wall. So this is the saccule, consists of this is the medial wall and this is the lateral wall here. So macula of saccule is situated in the medial wall in a vertical plane. Right, so you can see the difference. Utricle is in the floor of the horizontal plane in the utricle, and macula of saccule in the medial wall in the vertical plane. So these two are the important features. Now macula utriculi approximately contains the 33,000 hair cells, which are larger than the saccular macula, approximately 18,000 hair cells. So macula utriculi 33,000 containing the approximately hair cells, larger than the saccular macula, approximately 18,000 hair cells. Now macula consists of the thickened epithelium. Macula consists of the thickened epithelium containing two types of the cells which rest on the basilar membrane. Now in the given diagram showing here the basilar membrane. So in the last bottom of the figure we can see the basilar membrane. So here two type main cells which are called the sensory epithelial hair cells. Now the main cells called number 1 supporting cells which are columnar and tall. While second cells, sensory epithelial hair cells called the type 1 and type 2, embedded in the gelatinous membrane, the otolithic membrane, that is called, here you can see in the given diagram, the otolithic membrane. So sensory epithelial hair cells are type 1 and type 2 embedded in the gelatinous membrane called the otolith membrane. Now which contains the calcium carbonate and protein known as the otolithic granules. Now in the given diagram we can see the supporting cells. We can see here the light green color indicating supporting cells, and these are the type 1. You can see the shape according to the shape of the cells which are flash shape called the type 1 hair cells, and second columnar type cells. You can see these are the columnar type of cells. These are the type 2 hair cells. So you can see. Now from the apical portion of cells, you can see the one line portion is called the kinocilium. Again you can see the flask shapes hair cells type 1 and cylindrical columnar shape called the type 2, and you can see the supporting cells are tall and columnar. Now plum. What is plum? Plum, that is pale staining cells, are the hair cells. Now in between the supporting cells, mechanoreceptor cells, the long non-motile number of the stereocilia, I told you previously, so long in non-motile number of the stereocilia called the kinocilium, that is called the kinocilium. So we have discussed that depending upon the shape of the cell and the pattern of the nerve endings around them, type 1 are the flash shape, covered by the stereocilia and single cilium called the kinocilium. Type 2 cells called the columnar cells which are visualized. So between type 1 and type 2, these are the sensory cells. Located the supporting cells which are the tall columnar cells, figure indicating the green color. Now cochlea. So we have discussed about the first vestibule, that is how many parts of the bony labyrinth? Centrally vestibule, anteriorly cochlea and posteriorly semicircular canals. So we have discussed the vestibule containing the otolith organs along with the macula. Now second part of the bony labyrinth, that is the cochlea anteriorly. So we have discussed, we have seen in the given diagram cochlea anteriorly. So this is the vestibule and here cochlea and the semicircular canal which we'll discuss later on. Cochlea, the spiral bony tube coiled on itself with 2 and 3/4 turns around the central pillar. In the front of the vestibule called the medullus, you can see in the figure given diagram showing here the central portion is called the modulus. The central pillar is in the modulus. Now due to the spiral arrangement of the cochlea coiled on itself, 2 to 3 turns on itself, the structure in the inferior part, in the upper part will become later on in the lower part, that is the superior. So structure inferior in the upper part becomes superior in the inferior upper part. So here we can see figure showing the modulus and here the bony tubes of the cochlea, osseous labyrinth on the either side. So we can see the diagram. So the spiral bony tube coiled on itself, which is the central pillar called the modulus. The bony canal bulges towards the center of the cochlear canal, you can see. Now focus on the one bony tube. You can see in the figure the bulging from the inner side. This is the osseous spiral lamina. Now focus on the one bony tube of the cochlea, that is the osseous labyrinth. So bulging from the inner wall is a thin self of the bone that is known as the osseous spiral lamina. That is called the osseous spiral lamina. Bulge from the outer wall is the thickening of the periosteum, that is called the spiral ligament. So we can see here the inner self of the bone called the osseous spiral lamina and outer is called the thickening of the periosteum called the spiral ligament. Now we can see the area, both of these two, here is the basilar membrane. So that is made up of the structure we'll discuss. Now this basilar membrane which divides the entire tube into the upper part and the lower part, and that is called here the scala tympani, vestibuli and scala tympani we'll discuss. In the given diagram you can see the spiral ligament laterally and osseous spiral lamina in the inner part, right? So here the outer part spiral ligament and inner part osseous spiral lamina like thread of a screw. Now both of these two here the connecting here basement membrane is called the basilarly membrane on which the spiral organ of cortea is located. Now here you can see this stria vascularis. Now, stria vascularis, which are the exceptional modified epithelium in the body which is embedded, which contains the capillaries called the stria vascularis. Now we can see here from the spiral ligament to the osseous spiral lamina. Another you can see the vestibular Reisner's membrane. So whole of the canal is divided into three parts. Now we can see that is called the vestibular membrane and the basilar membrane. So we can see the basilar membrane divide the area into two, scala vestibuli above and scala tympani below. So scala vestibuli contain the vestibular duct and scala tympani containing the tympanic duct. Now here another vestibular, so third is called the scala media. The scala media, that is called the cochlear duct. Now scala media, the cochlear duct lies between the vestibular membrane, form the roof of the cochlear duct, and floor of the cochlear duct is formed by the basilar membrane. So scala media called the cochlear duct, part is called the roof of the cochlear duct and floor of the cochlear duct. So cochlear duct lies between the vestibular membrane in upper part and basilar membrane in the lower part, on which the spiral organ of the corti are located. So scala media. So now the floor of the cochlear duct is made up of basilar membrane, which bridges the gap between the osseous spiral lamina and the spiral ligament. So basilar membrane consists of the collagen fibers and the elastic fibers on which rest on the spiral organ of the corti. Now part of the spiral organ of the corti which is rest on the basilar membrane is called the zona arcuata, and lateral to zona arcuata, that is the zona pectinata, that is the superficial layer. Now roof of the cochlear canal is a thin. We have seen in the given diagram previously, the roof of the cochlear canal is thin and consists of two layers of the squamous epithelial cells, that is known as the vestibular membrane. So we have discussed that between the vestibular membrane and the basilar membrane, that is the scala media containing the cochlear duct. Now again showing the diagram, we can see here the scala vestibuli, and here you can see the scala tympani. Here the basilar membrane, you can see in the given diagram basilar membrane on which the spiral organ of corti are located. Right? So here you can see the osseous spiral lamina and the spiral ligament. Here is the vestibular membrane and here is the basilar membrane. This is the scala media containing the cochlear duct. Now spiral organ of corti. When cut at right angle to the axis, a triangular space is seen on the floor known as the tunnel of corti. You can see in the given diagram the tunnel of corti. When cut at the right angle to the axis, a triangular space is seen on the floor known as the tunnel of corti, situated between the inner rod cell. You can see in the inner rod cell in the inner part and outer rod cells on the outer part. So the tunnel of corti is situated between the inner rod cells and outer rod cells, which contains the fluid called the corti lymph. Now on either side of the tunnel of corti, resting on the base are the pillar cells. Now these are the pillar cells, right? Now we can see here the inner spiral sulcus. This inner spiral sulcus consists of two lips. One is called the vestibular lip and the tympanic lip. Now, before going in detail about the spiral organ of corti, what are the functions of the spinal organ of corti? Spinal organ of corti is so called because, like other structure in the cochlea, it extends in a spiral manner through the turns of the cochlea. It is made up of the epithelial cells that arranged in the complicated manner that I have told you. The structure inferiorly in the upper part, that is becomes superior in the lower part. The sensory organ of the hearing, another function of the spiral organ of Corti, the sensory organ of hearing is situated on the basilar membrane and spread like ribbon along the entire length. Now the cells are divisible into true receptor cells or hair cells and supporting elements which are given different names depending on their location. Now, spiral organ of Corti give rise to the cells called the hair cells. Hair cells are arranged in 3 rows. We can see in the given diagram. We can see in the given diagram, this is the basilar membrane on which the spiral organ of Corti are located. Centrally, the tunnel of Corti. Tunnel of Corti, we discussed between the inner rod cells and the outer rod cells. Now, the inner part, so hair cells are arranged in 3 rows. On outer side, outer hair cells, these are the outer hair cells. Outer hair cells are 3 in number and inner hair cells are 1 in number. Now the 3 rows on outer side, outer hair cells, and 1 row on inner side, inner hair cells. These hair cells project from their inner free surfaces. Now inner cells, look at the diagram. Inner cells, inner hair cells supported by tall cells lining the tympanic lip of the internal spiral sulcus. I told you about that. The internal spiral sulcus is a thickening connective tissue periosteal portion, gives the 2 tips. One is called the vestibular tip and one is called the tympanic tip. Now you can see the inner hair cells supported by the tall cells lining the tympanic tip of the internal spiral sulcus. Now inner spiral sulcus and the outer spiral sulcus. Now outer hair cells, you can see, focus your eyes on the outer hair cells do not lie directly on the basilar membrane. You can see this is the basilar membrane, so they do not lie, the outer hair cells do not lie directly on the basilar membrane but are supported by the phalangeal cells of the diator cells. So these are the phalangeals, green color indicating the phalangeal cells or diator cells which rest on the basilar membrane. So what is the characteristic? Here the inner cells are supported by the lining of the tympanic plate of the tympanic lip of the tall cells. These are the inner spiral sulcus, and outer hair cells do not directly on the basilar membrane but are supported by the phalangeal cells of the diators which rest on the basilar membrane. Now inner hair cells. Here you can see the diagram showing the inner hair cells which are supported by, as we have discussed, the tall cells lining the tympanic lip of the internal spiral sulcus. Now the supplied, so which are richly supplied by the afferent cochlear fibers, and that are very important in the transmission of the auditory impulses. What are the functions which are important in the transmission of the auditory impulses? And their nerve fibers are mainly efferent. So inner hair cells, their nerve fibers are mainly efferent. Now outer hair cells do not lie directly on the basilar membrane but supported by the phalangeal cells of diators we have discussed. Now you can see figure showing here the basilar membrane. These are the phalangeal cells of the diator cells and these are the outer hair cells. You can see diagram showing the cells in the organ of Corti. Now here you can see the membrana tectoria, that is the gelatinous membrane containing called the membrana tectoria. Now outer to the phalangeal cells which are called the cells of the Henson cells. This function of the Henson cells is not clear cut. Now the outer to the Henson cell, the cells of the Claudius. So all these are collectively called the organ of Corti containing the many cells and in the organ of Corti. Now the cells of spiral organ are covered. We have discussed that from above by a gelatinous mass called the membrana tectoria. You can see the membrana tectoria. Now underlying the supporting these hair cells are phalangeal cells of the diater cells. These are columnar in shape. We have discussed the outer to the diater cells are the Hansen cell. The function is not known. Still more cells called the cells of Claudius. Right? Now here the figure showing the organ of Corti. Right? So here is the organ of Corti. This is the membrana tectoria. Now peripherally we have discussed the internal spiral sulcus and tectorial membrane. Now, so all these are about the cells you can see in the given diagram. So more important, the cells are called the tunnel of Corti, lies between the inner rod cell, outer rod cells, then the inner hair cells in one row, outer rod cells in 3 rows, not supported directly outer by the basilar membrane but supported by the phalangeal cells, and here supported by the tall columnar cells here, inner spiral sulcus, here you can see. Now membrana tectoria, now outer to the cells of Hansen's and cells of Claudius. Now difference between the inner hair cells and the outer hair cells. The cell numbers in the inner hair cells are about 3,500 and in outer hair cells the cell numbers are about 12,000. You can see the difference between these two. So inner hair cells are arranged in 1 row, outer hair cells are arranged in 3 rows. Now rows in 1 and in outer 3 or 4. Shape of the inner hair cells which is flash shape of the outer hair cell that is the cylindrical shape. The nerve supply, the mainly efferent fibers, while in the inner hair cell, while outer hair cell, the nerve supply which are mainly efferent fibers. Now development of the inner hair cells which is earlier, while outer hair cells development is later on. What is the function of the inner hair cells which transmits the auditory stimuli? The functions of the outer hair cells modulate the function of the inner hair cells. Now ototoxicity about the inner hair cells more resistant, while ototoxicity of the outer hair cells more sensitive and easily damaged. The high intensity noise that is more resistant in the inner hair cells and more sensitive and easily damaged in the outer hair cells. The generation of the acoustic emissions that is no in the inner hair cells and yes in the outer hair cells. The figure showing this one. Now the last topic we have discussed the bony labyrinth consisting of 3 parts. Number 1, vestibule containing the otolith organs, utricle and saccule. Number 2, we discussed the cochlea will contain the spiral organ of Corti. Now third, the semicircular canal. So all 3 parts are visualized again in the given diagram. The vestibule, cochlea. Now moving towards the last third part of the bony labyrinth called the semicircular canal posteriorly. The bony canals are filled with the perilymph, but membranous tube contains the endolymph. The end of each tube is called the ampulla. In this there is a mound of neuroepithelial cells called the cristae. Is composed of the connective tissue, the nerve fibers and the capillaries. The cristae are organs of the kinetic balance. The cristae, function of the ampullary cristae are the organ of kinetic balance. One ampullary crest is present in the ampullated end of the 3 semicircular ducts. The surface epithelium columnar histologically similar to that of the macula, that means the hair cells and the supporting cells. The hair cells are specialized mechanoreceptors and they bear the hairs which extend into the gelatinous non-cellular membrane which covers the crest and is called the cupula. It does not contain otolith granules like macula. So see the difference with the macula. Here it does not contain otolith granules like the macula. Now, disclaimer, diagrams used in this PPT are taken from textbook of the histology, Interbasing 4th and 9th edition, textbook of the histology, G.P. Palser 3rd edition, then Google Scholar, textbook of the Betty Chorasias 4th edition, and textbook of the Elsevier and the Gray's Anatomy. The main motto for that, this PPT is for the academic purpose. So thank you so much.